Hello, families and friends. Welcome back to my podcast. Today, I am so pleased to share with you a testimony of a man who has lived his senior life going down a path of no return. And this path of no return, where he was delivered from, if it had not been for the Lord on his side, he certainly would not have made it. I was introduced to his book several years ago and had adapted into my ministry his prayer styles. I just love how this guy prayed, and his prayers were always answered according to God's will, which as a result I found extremely effective. His testimonies was then a blessing to my heart and continue to be. When I came across his testimony on Saturday while I was looking for or preparing a presentation, and I started to compile this clip to present on Sunday, strange things began to happen. And these strange things that began to happen is as a result of Satan not wanting God's work to be broadcast. But with prayer and consistency, and by God's grace and intervention, I managed to do what I had to do. And I know that all who listen will be blessed and have a renewal of heart and mind, and without a shadow of a doubt, know that we serve a risen Savior who is there and focused when we call him for help. So without further delay, let me encourage you to give your undivided attention to an ex-devil worshiper who have now, through his life journey, became a mighty man of God. Be blessed.
Well, I'd like to ask you to join me now in welcoming Brother Roger J. Morneau, probably one of the most popular writers in our church, to our platform. Roger? Now, we're going to start by explaining why we're having this interview in a sitting format. And my job, I think I ought to tell you right from the beginning so that you don't interpret that I'm being rude, I am here to both interview and interrupt. And the reason for that is Roger has written 5 books. Now you have 1 wife, 3 children, 12 grandchildren, and your ministry as a writer really began when you were 57 years of age. Right. You didn't have any idea at that point that the Lord was going to begin a national, international prayer ministry.
That's right.
And you're working on your 6th book right now.
And a 7th. I got
and
2 going
you've got
at the
another
same
one
time.
in your mind that you're working through.
Working at the same time.
But there have been a number of rumors that have circulated. When you first told me this, I thought you were kidding. And then someone called the Central Church and they said, we heard Brother Morneau's going to be there, but you haven't heard he's dead. And so we want to begin by dispelling that rumor. But that, I think, maybe has grown from the truth that you have had some challenges with your health, and that's why we are going to do this interview sitting down. Right. And if your health and strength permits, you'll be able to visit the people. Tell us, where are you at now in your physical state?
Well, outside of my heart situation, I'm in perfect health. I do not have an ache or a pain in my body. And for those of you that have read my last book on prayer, When You Need Incredible Answers to Prayers, in chapter 1, I talk about my being afflicted with pain in my left hip. My right shoulder was freezing on me. The right heel of my foot I could not stand on. And I had lower back pains, real bad. And besides, I had internal problems. My doctor told me, he says, well, man, I asked him, I said, hey, what do you think of the old guy? He says, well, I'll tell you what, I thought of your heart. He says, you have a lot of other problems. And but he says, don't worry. I have friends, they're surgeons, they do beautiful jobs. They'll fix your hip, they'll fix your inside, and they'll sew you up, man, and you'll be like new. And I went home that day, I didn't like the idea. So at night, I woke up about 3 o'clock in the morning, that's 4 years ago, and my left hip was hurting terrible. And I talked to the Lord, because it seemed that the Spirit of God impressed me deeply that the time had arrived in my life where I should ask the Lord for very special help. Mm-hmm. And I talked to our Heavenly Father and told him that I love this prayer ministry to exalt Christ as the mighty Redeemer that he is. And the lives of people are being blessed and benefited by the Spirit of God. But I said, Father, I'm to the point now where I have a hard time keeping my mind on what I'm talking about when I'm praying for people.
You're in so much pain.
Because of the pain. And I say, Father, would you honor me in a very special way? By the power of the Spirit of life in Christ Jesus that Paul talks about in Romans 8:2. That same great power that raised up Lazarus from the dead be imparted to me through your Holy Spirit, and to recreate my whole being to what I was about when I was 50 years ago. Now, you see, with the Lord, let me tell you something about faith and asking for the Lord's blessings. Don't ever ask only for a half favor. Go all the way, because he is mighty God, and he's able to do anything. So I said, Father, I would like you to reconstruct me, rebuild me, for the Spirit of God to rest upon me. And you see, Romans 8:11 says, if the Spirit of him that raised up Jesus from the dead dwell in you, he that raised up Christ from the dead shall also quicken your mortal bodies by his Spirit that dwelleth in you. Mm-hmm. So I took that literally and said, Father, I am so thrilled that you are willing to do this for me. And I expect that within 3 days, I won't have an ache in my body. Now, Ellen White says in Christ Object Lessons that God longs, he longs to have us reach after him by faith. He longs to have us expect great things from him. So I said, Father, I want some real great miracles here. And do you know, this was 4 years ago, and in 3 days I had no more pain, nowhere in my body. But let me explain about my heart. I said, Father, about the heart, please don't touch it. Please don't touch the heart. Don't make me all better, because, Father, I won't have a prayer ministry. I won't have one. I'll be flying all over creation telling people how nice it was to have had a prayer ministry. Mm-hmm. See, to have a prayer ministry takes time. You know, you got to pray, and with a bad heart, I got to rest a lot, so I pray a lot. And I have, right now I have over 25,000 names on my prayer list. Or as I would say in my prayer tower. You saw the
That's
tower.
right. It looks like a World Trade Center.
I have like a 7-foot tower and that's full from top to bottom. There's over 1,700 letters in there. And then another tower is about half filled. And the Lord did for me what I asked him to do.
So outside of the problem with your heart, and your doctor said last exam is working at about 40%.
Well,
right?
the doctor looked at me and he said, how you doing? My cardiologist. I said, fine. Is there supposed to be something wrong with me? No, he says, he says, the part of your heart is dead and all that. He says, I'm concerned about it greatly, He said, 1984, December 1, 1984, which is just 14 years ago, I landed in the hospital in Niagara Falls, Canada, when Hilda and I drove her mother from central New York, where we were living, to Niagara Falls, where she resided. She resided at the time. And on Sabbath morning, 10 o'clock, I was taken into the emergency room at the hospital, and the doctor said to my wife, if you would have been 20 minutes later getting here, you would have been dead, your husband. So they find out no time at all, especially Sunday morning, that a virus had damaged my heart. And right at that time, the doctor told me later, there was the blood samples that they were taking at 6 o'clock in the morning was loaded with heart tissue, which meant that the heart had started to deteriorate. And when I asked him on Tuesday, that was from Sabbath morning to Tuesday, I said to the doctor, what is the possibility of my getting out of this place alive? And he looked at me and said, you really want to know? I said, yes. because it's important. It'll help me know how to pray correctly. And he looked at me and said, "You're a praying man." I pray for a lot of people. I'll pray for you from now on. You're taking care of me like you are, you know. And he was a little taken with that, and he said, "Well, I'll tell you, it'll take a miracle." No, he said, "It'll take more than a miracle to get you out of here alive. It'll take many miracles." I said, "Thank you, Doc." And that was it. Now, for those who have read my book, the very first book on prayer,
Incredible Answers.
Incredible Answers to Prayer, I have the story in here of my experience in the intensive care unit of the Greater Niagara Hospital. Yeah.
Let's go back to your conversion a little bit. Now, you're French-Canadian by birth.
Oh, yes.
And during the World War II, you were in the Navy.
Yeah.
Now, just coming out of the Navy, some things happened where you got drawn into not passive, but outright demonic association worship and the spiritualistic movement.
Yeah.
Tell us a little about that so folks know where you've come from.
Coming out of the Merchant Navy, I discovered there was thousands of enlisted men that were looking for jobs that were no longer in service, and to get jobs in Montreal was kind of difficult. And I took a job to get me making a living at the Windsor Bowling Alleys and Billiards in West St. Catherine Street, which is the main street of Montreal. And I was assistant to the manager of the billiard room. That's where all the wealthy people, you know, play billiard. And so it turned out to be that one evening about 6 o'clock, this fellow come walking in there and said, "Hey, Marno." I turn around and look at him. He said, "You're alive." I said, "Of course I'm alive. Yeah, I heard that you were torpedoed in the North Atlantic and that you died."
You've had this problem all your life, haven't you? People thinking you're dead.
People misunderstand me. Yeah, he said, "Man, you know, nice to see you," and, you know, shook my hand, and he said, "Why don't you have dinner with me tonight? I got a lot of nice, interesting things to tell you, man. Wow, my life is filled with well-being." I said, "What did you do, inherit a few $1 million? No, it's better than that. Better than that. Tell you that marriage is weed." So I asked my boss, could I take the evening off? And it was like on Wednesday evening, there wasn't too many people there. Yeah, he said, "We can't take it off." So we're sitting, you know, eating our meal, and he says, "Man," he says, "let me tell you, I have become member of a society who communicate with the spirits of the dead. How would you like to talk to the spirit of your dead mother?" See, my mother died when I was 12 years old. I said, "I wouldn't be interested at all." "Hey, man," he says, "I talked to my dad." He says, "The things that he's doing is fabulous. The spirits of our departed loved ones are interested in our well-being here in this land, and they want to help you. They want to be with you. They want to help you." So he told me, "Well, you know, why don't you come to a seance with me next Saturday night?" And I said, "No, I'm not interested really, to be honest with you." And I tried to change the subject, but he wouldn't change the subject. He says, "Now look," he says, "you're chicken. I can tell." He says, "I knew Bono when he was afraid of nothing, you know. You painted the 70-foot main mast on the ship." He said, "Nobody else wanted to go out there." And he said, "Now," he said, "you're chicken. Or are you going to come with me Saturday night?" I said, "I'll go with you." And that's the way it started for a few months. We had dealt with these seances, and many very interesting things happened. If you want to hear about it, I'll tell you, but I think I'm better go
Now,
on.
some of that is in one of your books. Is that in Trip into the Supernatural?
Trip into the Supernatural.
Right, okay.
There's that one.
That's it.
So,
That's called the plug. And you hold it in.
well, you told me that the cameras would pick
That's
it up,
right.
right?
Yeah, you got to
So
hold it
that-
fast. Hold it for a little while, and then we'll put it down. That's good. Okay.
Well, all I'm trying to do, I want to be recognized. People say that I'm dead.
Yeah.
I'm not dead
No,
at
I
all.
can see that.
You see my books, you see these guys are not dead, you know.
So a number of fascinating things happened at these seances, but finally you actually got to the place where at one point things were flying around the room, and you were having demons and spirits were speaking to the group and making promises. And
I'm going to tell you a very short little story here. We go to one of these seances one Saturday night, sorry, Saturday evening, and there was a guest exorcist, whatever you want to call him, medium, that was speaking there. And my friend says, "Hey, by the way, this big, great man, the band leader, famous band leader, is going to be there with his wife." I said, "Really?" "Oh boy, I like to meet him." Now this man belonged to a high Luciferian society of spirit worshippers. And what happened, that the spirit had, this spirit counselor, that is one of Satan's top angels, had told the high priest of the society just about a year before that the great master wanted to bring 2 individuals in to the society that would be a tremendous asset to the group in Montreal, and had given our names, but the priest had forgotten all about that. And what happened is that this George, this band leader, he was told by the angel, you go with your wife to this seance. You look like you're really enjoying yourself, but you're there for one purpose, to bring these guys into the society, and here's how you're going to do it. When your wife is engrossed with talking with the visiting medium, and you see that these fellows want to leave, you tell your wife that you're going home to rest, but she can come home and she live right just a few houses away. And the angel told him, walk out at the same time with the 2 fellas and ask them if they're driving or taking the streetcar. So we walked out of there, and George says, hey, listen, you guys driving? No, so we're taking the streetcar 2 blocks away. Oh, jump in the car. He had a nice big Lincoln, brand new one. We jump in the car, he says, I'll drive you there. And on the way there, he says, hey man, why don't we go to a fancy restaurant on West St. Catherine Street, and we'll have some good food and a couple of drinks. And you tell me more about your merchant Navy experiences. See? So, okay. After we're sitting there, he says, how long have you guys been involved in sorcery? I said, what? Yeah, he said, how long have you guys been involved in sorcery? He said, you know, the spirits, the supposed spirits of the dead, they're not the spirits of the dead. They're demon spirits. And they're deceiving everybody. And they're of the lowest ranking of Satan's angel. And he goes on telling us a little bit more, and he invites us to one of their meetings for the following week, for the Wednesday evening, and the following evening. But, by the time we left there, he was so lit that I said to myself, this guy will never pick us up, to go to this meeting. But sure enough, Wednesday evening, he gave us a ring, my friend lived about 2 blocks away from where I lived. But he picked us up, brought over there, and introduced us to the members of the secret society. And I was very amazed because of the fact that they were all professionals, merchants, people, business people of great capacities, wealthy people. And there was a number of medical doctors and attorneys and people like that.
Now, at this point, you realized this society, they were not just mediums doing seances. You knew that this was the underworld.
They had beautiful paintings, life-size, of angels that had appeared, Satan's angels, dressed in different garment of different ages, and they had materialized. First, they had materialized in those forms, then they were photographed, and then they made the paintings of them. And when I visited the worship room of the gods, I was amazed to see there was over 100 of those beautiful paintings all around the worship room of the gods, and they were all Satan's top-notch spirit counselors.
So they had these life-size paintings of demons that had once appeared, and they made paintings out of them.
We were so amazed, my friend and I, we couldn't believe it. That, having been born and raised a Catholic, and you think of the devil, being in the middle of the earth and fire, covered with soot, with, they look terrible. And then you find out that, the great conflict that started in the courts of heaven.
And the demons are beautiful.
And the angels, Satan's angels, are beautiful beings, bright, beautiful beings. You see? The high priest told me that when he was in Chicago visiting there, that an angel appeared to him, and he says the brightness was so great that he couldn't look upon the being, but closed his eyes. And the spirit counselor, the angel, told him that the fellow that he had left in charge, the other priest in Montreal, was about to wreck everything that the spirits had done to bring my friend and I into the society, and that he ought to phone immediately and get this guy to change his mind. He had not, when George wanted to phone him and says that he would like to bring us, he said, no way. He said, if the high priest wants to have them here, he's going to have to be here himself, and that'll be in the future.
Now, I remember reading that the spirits were offering different gifts and powers, and at one point you received the power to get dreams about what horse to bet on.
Oh, yeah.
And you won. The bookies finally told you to stop coming because you won several days in a row. Is that right?
They told me that they were going to put a bullet in me. So when I heard that, I said to the guy, I won't come back here.
But every race that you bet on, you won for several days.
Here's what happened. The high priest told us, my friend and I, that the great master would very much like to have us initiated into the society on the 31st of October at their resort in the Laurentian Mountains, north of Montreal, north of Saint-Agathe. And you know, he wasn't able to tell us what the great master wanted us to do as a career, but that it was going to be a tremendous, important work that the two of us were going to have to do. Well, my friend says, well, you wanted to be initiated anytime. But I said to the priest, you know, at that time, you know, I didn't know very much. I said, my reverend, you know, I call the guy the reverend. I understand how the great master may want us to be initiated now, but somehow I don't feel that I want to be initiated this time. What about maybe like in the spring of the year or something like that? He said, well, I'll tell you what, I don't know. He says, you don't want to buck the good master, the high master, because the great master, because he says it's very bad. So he said,
and
look,
the great master is who?
Satan.
Okay, just want to clarify that. The great master is Satan.
But
is offering
they
these
still
special
refer to
gifts.
him as the great master or Lucifer.
Or Lucifer, okay.
We don't call him Satan. There are very few references, but very few. He said, look, I'm going to do something for you guys, especially for you, Roger. I'm going to pray to the great master that he give you a gift. What kind would you like? And he give 3 or 4 or 5, and choose, and whatever you choose, it says will be yours. And I said, well, it'd be mighty nice if I had the gift of clairvoyance, where I could see, you know,
clairvoyance,
see at the bouquets, you know, you play the horses, you go to the bouquets, and you see all the name of the horses and the tracks, Belmont, or whatever they're running, you see, and to know which was going to be the winner. I said, that'd be great. I could make myself nice money. He said,
that would probably work with the stock market too, then.
Yeah, it would probably work with anything, you know. But he said, that's yours. You got it. And sure enough, just a little bit later, I had a dream. And I dreamed that I went to the bookie, and on a Saturday morning, and I saw the calendar date and everything, and I saw all the horses running at 3 different races, and the winner was the one that shone.
It was shiny.
Shiny. And that was one there. It was 21-1. This horse. It was so bad, you know, the possibility of winning was so poor that he was paying 21-1. In other words, if you put $1 down, you get 21. See, if he wins. Well, that was a shining one. I said, boy. Then I said, this other one, you look good. So I said to myself, well, you know, in those days, money was you know,
scarce.
Scarce. So I said, well, I'm going to put $2 on this guy. You know, so I put $2 on it, and then he wins. That was first. Then I put $20 on the 21-1 horse, and that won. And then that got the attention of everybody. Everybody said, I can't believe it. Some guy were knocking knocking their fist on the counter, you know, because they said this horse is totally worthless. He shouldn't have been in this race, and then he wins. You know, and so I was listening to these guys, and I said, boy, so you know what happened? When I came back there the following week, I went out, I left out of there with a bundle of money in my pocket. I went down to the St. Catherine Street. I went to one of the fine men's stores, and I bought myself a $200 suit.
That's a lot of money back then.
In those days, in 1946,
yeah.
A bundle of money. So anyway, I came back the next week, and the man at the cage says, you're Roger. I said, yes. As I was putting some money down, he said, the boss would really like to see you.
The bookie boss.
Yeah, the boss, the owner of the operation. And he says, you go to that door right over there. I said, okay. So he gives me my tickets, and I go in there and knock. Come on in. You know, it was all in French, of course. Entrez, monsieur. Oh, yeah, he sees me. Oh, you're the guy, you're Roger. I says, yeah. Come here, he says, sit down right there in front of my desk. He got up, and he walked around, make a big circle around me, look at me, sat back again, and he says, you don't look like a winner. You don't look like a guy, you don't look like a man that knows anything about horses. Well, I said, I don't. I just happen to be lucky. He said, I'll tell you what, I don't know where you're getting your information, okay? But we don't like it here anymore. You're taking too much of our nice money. So I'll tell you what, the next time that you're in here, I'll let some of my goons after you, and you'll put a bullet right up there, man, and I won't have you around here again. Now, if you want the address and names of different bookies in Montreal, I'll give you a whole list of them. I said, no, it's not necessary, sir. I won't come back. So that was the beginning.
He knew you had inside information. He just didn't know how inside it was, right?
So the pressure mounted to be initiated. And this was in October. And I came home on a Wednesday evening, and after the hypers had put a lot of pressure on me, and I went to bed, but I couldn't sleep. About 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm sitting, laying in bed there, and now this was a prayer, mighty beautiful prayer, very short, and I never thought I was praying. But here, listen to this. I said, if there's a God in heaven who cares for me, see that? Mm-hmm. Who cares for me, help me. I don't know how long I stayed awake after that, but the next thing I knew, my alarm clock rang, and I got up and went to work. Is that something? Now, something beautiful happened. I am working in the embroidery factory, and I was working on my machine, and the 3 o'clock coffee break came in the afternoon, and I went outside to have my smoke, and one of the bosses, you see, they were Jewish, two owners. One of the bosses said, hey, Roger, when you come up, come into my office, I want to talk to you. I said, okay. So I came back up, and he said, come on in, close the door. I said to myself, what in the world is going on? He never closes his door unless he wants to fire somebody. You know, I learned that by observation, see. I said, well, what's the problem? Well, there's no problem. But he says, he says, you could call it problem probably. You know, you notice this guy that was here this morning that I showed around the shop? I said, yeah. I said, the black guy? Yeah. Well, he's going to start working here next Monday. And he's a Christian, but he keeps the Jewish Sabbath. What do you mean he keeps the Jewish Sabbath? Yeah, he keeps the biblical Sabbath of creation, that God created the world, the earth, and blesses the 7th day and all of that. Mm-hmm. He keeps it like the Jews do, like the Orthodox Jews do. So I said, so what? I want you to find out what denomination he belongs to. It's haunting me, this thing. He says, I could hardly sleep last night, that I had to find out what denomination this guy belongs to. But he said, I'm not going to start doing this kind of work. He says, you're my friend, give me a favor, find out for me. I said, sure, no problem. And he said, I'll have him work on the machine next to you. So
this is in the embroidery factory.
He said, you're going to have a lot of chances to talk to the guy, but don't let him know that I'm the one that wants to know what denomination he belongs to. Okay, don't worry. So to cut long story short, my machine was breaking threads, and I had to back it up and start over again. And I got very, very unhappy with the whole thing, and I started to call the saints. I was a Catholic then. When I was a former Catholic, I was calling the saints down from heaven. And so the coffee break came at 10 o'clock, went out downstairs, and I was telling Cyril, I said, have you ever seen anything like this taking place? The boss comes over, adjusts the machine, he works 15, 20 minutes, thinking his work's beautiful. I get back to the machine, the threads start breaking right away. I said, I don't know what it is. I said, you have any suggestion? He says, well, I'll tell you what. He says, if I were you, I would take it easy on the Lord. I could hear you talking to the saints up there a little while ago, but he said, I heard the name of the Lord, and I thought, seeing that you've asked my opinion, I like to tell you, take it easy on the Lord. Maybe things will go better. I said, there's my opening. I said, say, man, I understand you're quite a religious man. What denomination do you belong to? He said, I'm a Seventh Adventist. A Seventh-day, what? I said, I'm Seventh Adventist. And he explained what the name meant, you know. Wow, I said, this is interesting. And I asked him some other questions. And then it was time to go back upstairs. I said to him, I said, look, did you bring your lunch? He says, yeah. What about us sitting on the loading dock in the back of the place there and have our lunch together, and you tell me more about your religious convictions, about this business of the Lord coming and resurrecting people and recreating the earth later on and all of that, and you're not going to be just a spirit flying on the clouds in heaven if you're saved into God's kingdom? He said, yeah, you will talk about it. So we had a good hour of talking. And in the afternoon, about 2 o'clock, the Spirit started to oppress me. It was in the month of October. The windows were open about maybe 4 or 5 inches in the plane. It was cold, cool, and I was starting to perspire. So I took my shirt and unbuttoned it and rolled my sleeves, and I was still perspiring more. So I went to the men's room, and once I locked the door, I was being grabbed and choked. And the perspiration was so great that I stood over the toilet, and the water was just pouring down there. And I said to myself, unless Cyril's God help me, the spirits are going to do me in. And instantly, just...
So you knew that you had demonic powers that were trying to choke you right then.
Yeah. So at 3 o'clock, no, it was at 5 o'clock, I told him, I says, what streetcar do you take? Where do you take the streetcar? He says, well, I'll take it about 2 blocks down here. I said, I want to walk with you. Listen, if I went over to your house, could you show me in the Bible, the things that you were telling me today about your religious convictions? Oh, yeah, he says, I'd be glad to. I said, yeah, okay. He said, what about next weekend? Oh, no. I said, I mean, this evening. This evening? Oh, it's not a good evening. He says, I have a guy that's supposed to come and buy my jazz records. And he says, no, I've already promised him, put him off 2 or 3 times. I said, well, I'm sorry, but I surely would have liked to study the Bible with you. He said, what about tomorrow night or the night after? It'll be too late, my friend. Too late. Forever too late. And he said, okay, you be at our home at 7 o'clock, and we'll be waiting for you. Now I get to his place and introduce me to his wife, and then he says, well, I got to explain something to you. I listen. He said, I'm not a Seventh Adventist. Actually, I told you I was a Seventh Adventist because you asked me, and I said it was the easiest thing for me to do. I didn't have a lot of time to explain. I'm not a baptized member of the Seventh Adventist Church. I probably will be baptized before too long, because I'm just about making my decision in regards to the Sabbath. But he says, my wife is a Seventh Adventist. And he says, she will give us, she'll conduct the Bible studies tonight if that's okay with you. I said, yeah. And she explained that they had these little Bible studies, 28 Bible studies for Wednesday people. And on one sheet, which should represent one study, was about maybe 18, 20 questions. And then you look up the answer in the Bible. So I said, that's fine. So we had a first Bible study, the Word of God. And then it's 8 o'clock. And I said to Cynthia, she's smiling now. Isn't that beautiful? She remembers that like it was yesterday. And it's 51 years have gone by. I said, Cynthia, what's the next Bible study entitled? Oh, that's Daniel 2. I said, yeah. What is it about? So he told me a little bit. I said, hey, let's have this Bible study right now. No, they said, why not come back maybe then next weekend? No. I said, tonight, right now. So Cyril said, okay, let's have it. So now it's 9 o'clock. Oh, I said, what a fantastic study. Well, how interesting. I said, what's the third study title? And she looked at Cyril and she said, it is such and such. I said, fantastic. Let's have this study also. I said, what time do you people go to bed? Oh, they said, we go to bed about 11 o'clock. But after I listen to the evening news. Beautiful. I said, we have time for another study. He said, let me explain to you. We've got a real problem here. He said, our minister has been giving us a lecture on how to give Bible studies effectively. And he tells us that we should never give people more than 2 Bible studies per week. And they should be like one maybe like on Monday or Tuesday or Wednesday, and the other one like on Sunday, or Saturday or something like that. And he said, we've already had, how many do we have now? 3? 2? Anyway. And he said, we've already passed our quota. I said, I'm so glad that you told me that, Cyril, about your minister. I'll tell you what, I promise I won't tell him a thing. You won't know.
Thank you, families and friends, for watching. I pray that your hearts are all being blessed so far. Please stay tuned for part 2 when Robert made that promise to Cynthia that he will not tell her pastor that the rules on how to conduct Bible study was broken, as he continued his urgent quest to learn more about the one and only true God. Let us continue to study the word ourselves. Let us continue to pick up ways where we can pray effective prayer so we ourselves can be drawn close to God and be ready for his kingdom. Thank you for joining me. Stay tuned for part 2. Be blessed.